If you can't handle me going to clubs, then just divorce me. My wife snickered with her friends, ridiculing my work in front of everyone. I kept quiet. Now she's broke and desperate, pleading with me while I finally live in peace. It was a Saturday afternoon in Denver, the air thick with the smell of smoked brisket, cheap sunscreen, and, looking back, an undeniable stench of betrayal. Sarah, my wife of 7 years, was holding caught by the cooler, a red plastic cup in her hand, her tongue a little too loose. Our friends were scattered across the lawn, laughing, drinking beer, tossing bean bags. I was mid-conversation with Amanda, an old friend of Sarah's, who'd become a bit of a friendly antagonist over the years. That's when I heard it. Sarah's voice, cutting through the happy hum of the party. "Oh, please," she scoffed, loud enough for everyone. "Jacob never takes risks. He's happy with his little cubicle job, pushing emails like it's still 2005. A few polite chuckles rippled through the crowd, but then Amanda, bless her bluntness, turned her head towards Sarah. She was half laughing, but her eyes sharpened like daggers. "Seriously," she said, a smile playing on her lips. "Then give him to me. I'd take him with that salary." Just like that, the atmosphere shifted. The laughter died. Forks paused midair. Conversations evaporated. All eyes turned to me, the husband with the little cubicle job. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I just looked at Sarah across the patio. Our gazes locked. Hayes was still lit up with amusement, a glint of challenge. Was that supposed to be funny? My voice was quiet, almost a whisper, but it carried. Her smile wavered. A ripple of discomfort, of acute awkwardness, passed through the guests. Amanda slowly raised her drink, her eyebrows arched in a silent checkmate. "Don't be so sensitive, Jacob," Sarah said, a dismissive flick of her wrist. "It was a joke." "A joke?" I repeated, and I started walking towards her. Each step felt heavy, dragging the weight of our 7 years behind it. "Tell me, Sarah, what part was funny? The part where you lied about loving my ambition? Or the part where you tried to impress your friends by tearing me down?" "Are you exaggerating?" she hissed, her voice now lower, laced with desperation. "Don't do this in front of people." "Oh no," I replied, the words dripping with ice. "You already did this in front of people. I'm just responding." Amanda took a strategic step back, melting into the semicircle of silent guests who were now suddenly fascinated by their phones or their drinks. Everyone knew this wasn't just a marital spat. This was something breaking into pieces. Sarah tried to laugh again. "Come on, honey. It was just..." "No," I interrupted, the clarity wrapped in sarcasm. "And now everyone has seen it." The silence that followed was absolute. I walked away, slow and steady, hearing nothing but the soft crunch of grass under my shoes and, in my mind, the sound of Sarah's carefully constructed illusion collapsing. Back inside the house later, the walls of our minimalist home felt colder, hollower. Our space, once shared with such comfort, had become sterile. I sat on the sofa, my hands still shaking slightly, not from rage, but from a profound, terrifying realization. I wasn't angry about the joke. I was angry because it wasn't a joke at all. I make over $200,000 a year managing risk systems for an energy company. No flashy title, sure, but a stable, respected, incredibly secure job. The kind of job that builds a life, and apparently, the kind of life Sarah now despised. Later that night, the house was too quiet, the kind of silence that doesn't rest, that waits and watches. I heard the click of the bathroom cabinet, the buzz of her electric toothbrush, the soft tap of Sarah's footsteps on the wooden floor, as if they no longer belonged to her. I was at the kitchen island, the dishwasher humming behind me, a half-drunk glass of wine untouched. I poured it out of habit, not desire. She emerged from the hallway, wrapped in her robe, her hair in that bun she used to wear when studying late in college. Back when we still shared jokes that weren't at each other's expense. "I didn't know I married a comedian," I said dryly, not looking up from the untouched glass. Her sigh hit the air like a rehearsed script. "Jacob, we're still on this." I turned. "We never got off this." She rubbed her temple, as if she were the overwhelmed one. "It was a joke." "No," I said. "It was a billboard with flashing lights and your name on it." "God," she muttered, turning away. "You're so sensitive lately." I followed her to the living room. "I'm the sensitive one. You humiliate me in front of half our friends." Amanda counters with a better joke, and suddenly I'm the one exaggerating. Sarah flopped onto the sofa, crossing her arms, rolling her eyes. She was flirting. Amanda always does that. "Really?" I asked, my voice incredulous. "You're going to sit here and act like you didn't love it?" "I didn't ask to be defended, Sarah. I asked for respect." That word, respect, floated in the air between us like smoke. She shifted uncomfortably, and for the first time tonight, I saw something flicker in her expression. Not guilt, not remorse, just discomfort, like you feel when a mirror finally shows you something you can't unsee. "I'm going to bed," she said abruptly, getting up. "We both said what we had to say." "No," I replied, standing firm. "You said what you had to say at the party, in front of everyone, and now you can't close the book just because the page makes you look bad." She didn't respond. She simply disappeared down the hallway. I stood there for a long time after she left. The house around me looked, as always, perfectly organized, elegant furniture, neutral tones. But now it felt different. Empty. When I finally went to bed, she was already curled on her side, back to me. Her breathing was steady, rehearsed. I lay there with my eyes open, watching the ceiling fan spin above me, feeling myself shrinking in my own life. Not because of the joke itself, but because of the way she didn't even care that it had landed like a stab. I used to think we were partners. I used to believe Sarah saw me, not just what I did, but who I was. The nights she encouraged me to take the job that moved us to Denver. The mornings she packed my lunch with Post-its. You got this. And don't forget to call your mom. Now I was just convenient, easy to ridicule. The safe, boring husband who kept the lights on and the mortgage paid while she played the charming hostess. I closed my eyes, trying to sleep. But in the suffocating silence, something whispered louder than any argument could have. This wasn't about the joke. It was about everything underneath. And for the first time, I wondered if I had spent years building a life with someone who had stopped valuing the same things I prided myself on. The following days blurred into a series of slow, silent fractures. Sarah started coming home later. Not once or twice, but constantly. Girls' night, she'd say casually, keys jingling, perfume trailing after her like an afterthought. Sometimes she left a plate in the sink. Sometimes her heels were by the door at angles, suggesting she'd taken them off in a hurry. The first time, I didn't say much. The second, I asked if she was okay. By the fifth, I stopped asking. I would return from work, that same little cubicle job she mocked, leave my laptop case, and notice the profound silence. She used to greet me with a half hug, a "How was your day?" That felt automatic, but still offered something. Now, I found the living room empty, the television off, the sofa untouched, a single wine glass drying on the counter. We started moving through the house as if avoiding each other on purpose. She stayed in the bedroom, checking her phone. I retreated to the kitchen, or sat outside on the back deck, watching the string lights she insisted on installing last spring. They flickered softly, as if trying to keep up appearances for a party that had ended long ago. And it wasn't just the time apart. It was the way things were left abandoned. Lipstick-stained mugs, a wet towel on the bathroom floor, dishes stacked by the sink instead of inside the dishwasher we bought together. She never used to do that. Sarah was meticulous. Everything had a place. Now, it felt as if she were challenging the house to look messy, as if the order we had built together annoyed her. The turning point came midweek. I arrived home around 6 o'clock. Her car wasn't in the driveway. I walked into the kitchen and found Chinese takeout containers scattered across the island. Half empty boxes, a missing chopstick, open soy sauce packets with dried edges. No note, no text message, nothing. And that silence didn't feel accidental. Later that night, she came in just after midnight. I was half asleep on the sofa, the television casting a muted blue light across the room. She walked past me as if I were furniture. "You're home," I said dryly. She stopped, barely looking over her shoulder. "Didn't want to wake you." "You didn't." She kept walking. I turned off the television and sat in the dark, listening to the distant sound of her heels clicking down the hallway, the bathroom door closing behind her. Our home used to be a sanctuary, a space we mulled together. Pancakes on early Saturday mornings, shared playlists during deep cleanings, long sofa sessions watching bad TV. It had always felt like ours, but now it was mine against hers. Territory, neutral corners, civilized avoidance. Even the bed felt divided by an invisible line. One night, I watched her in the mirror as she got ready for sleep. She was texting someone, smiling silently at the screen. "Who is it?" I asked. She didn't even look up. "Amanda," she said. "That's all." She got into bed and turned over, the screen lighting her face, casting sharp shadows on the wall. I lay there, staring at the ceiling again, listening to the sound of my own breathing and hers overlaid behind it. Two people side by side, separated as always. That was when I started noticing things. Her phone was always face down. Notifications arrived at odd hours. Laughter came from behind closed doors, then stopped when I approached. And something inside me shifted. Not jealousy, not even anger, but clarity. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't insecure. Something was changing, and I was the only one trying to keep it still. Friday night, the sky hung low over Denver, thick with clouds and that vibrant electricity that makes the air feel heavier than usual. I stood in our hallway, staring at the front door, my fingers on the deadbolt. The wall clock read 10:56 p.m. Sarah hadn't come home yet. Her text messages had stopped around 8 o'clock, some vague message about one more drink and don't wait up. But tonight, I decided I would wait. Only, I wasn't waiting in the usual way. Not curled up on the sofa, hoping she would come in and smile at me like she used to. I was waiting with a different kind of coiled, tense energy inside my chest. At 11 o'clock sharp, I locked the door, the deadbolt, the chain. Then I turned off the lights and walked to the kitchen. I turned on the under-cabinet glow and poured myself a glass of water. The house was quiet, so quiet I could hear the ice shifting in the freezer. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was her. I let it vibrate once, twice, before answering. "Hello," I said, quiet as a whisper. "Jacob, why is the door locked?" Her voice was breathless, a bit of panic in it, as if she hadn't expected to find herself outside her own home. "It's 11:08, I said, looking at the microwave clock. "You said you'd be home at 10. "Don't be ridiculous. I didn't think you'd actually lock me out." "Then I guess you don't know me as well as you thought." There was silence on the line. "I'm out here in heels. Jacob, let me in." You'll figure it out, I said, and took a sip of water. Or better yet, why don't you text Amanda? She seems to be on speed dial lately. Her voice changed. She wasn't panicked anymore. She was angry. Ah, you being childish. No, I retorted. I'm putting an end to it. I hung up. The house felt different in that moment, as if it belonged to me again, even if only for the night. I turned on the record player in the corner. Something soft, just enough to cut the stillness. 15 minutes passed, then 20. She called again. I let it go to voicemail. Finally, the knocking stopped. I don't know where she went. And honestly, for the first time in a long time, I didn't care. Instead, I stood in the middle of our kitchen, barefoot on the tile, and breathed a silence that no longer felt heavy. It felt earned. I knew I wasn't fixing our marriage with a locked door, but I wasn't trying to. What I wanted, what I needed, was to feel like I had a line she couldn't cross. Because when someone undermines you, slowly, day after day, it's hard to notice the damage until the whole foundation is cracked. And that night, I decided to stop being a foundation for someone who kept building elsewhere. I went to bed alone. I slept with the door open and the hallway light off. For the first time in weeks, I didn't toss and turn. Didn't rehearse arguments in my head. Didn't wonder who she was texting. I simply slept. And when I woke up the next morning, the house was still quiet. Sarah wasn't there, but I was. Fully. And that, strangely, felt enough. The next morning, the house still held that eerie stillness. No heels clicking on wood. No bathroom fan humming. No Sarah. I made my coffee slowly, measuring each scoop as if it mattered. The usual Saturday aroma, warmth, toasted calm, settled over the kitchen, but it didn't reach me like it used to. The door remained locked. At 10 a.m., I found myself sitting in the corner of a quiet little coffee shop near South Pearl Street. My usual spot. One Sarah never liked. Too bland, she used to say. No energy. That was exactly why I was there. Logan slid into the seat opposite me. College friend, IT guy, divorced 3 years ago. We had stayed close, not out of proximity, but because he never told me what I wanted to hear, only the truth. He didn't even bother saying hello. Just looked at me, then at the coffee cup in my hands, then back at me. She's still at Amanda's, he presumed. Didn't come back last night. He took a long sip of his own drink. So, are you ready to stop pretending? I raised an eyebrow. Pretending what? Logan leaned forward, both forearms resting on the table. That this is fixable. That she'll come around. That this is about a stupid joke at a barbecue. Jacob, man, you're losing respect for yourself. That hit harder than expected. I looked out the window, watching a runner pass with her dog, leash taut, both perfectly synchronized. That kind of balance felt like a foreign language to me now. I don't want drama, I said after a long pause. I want peace. That's all I've ever wanted. Then stop standing in a boning house with a hose that doesn't work, he said simply. You don't need to scream. You don't need to flip tables. You just need to walk out the front door. I stayed at my coffee. The warmth had faded. She's changed, I said quietly, and I didn't see it coming. No, said Logan. You did see it. You just didn't want to believe it. He wasn't wrong. There had been signs long before the barbecue. Sarah's restlessness, her need for attention, the way she started rolling her eyes at the same traits she used to praise. At first, I thought it was stress, then boredom, then maybe even depression. But now, I realized I had been making excuses while she had been drawing escape routes. I leaned back, exhaling. I think it's over. Logan nodded slowly, not in celebration, but with quiet understanding. And now what? I'm going to do this right, I said. No anger, no revenge. Not throwing clothes on the lawn or screaming in the driveway. He raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? Could be cathartic. I gave a dry smile. I want a clean divorce. Half of everything. No drama. Just dignity. Logan sat back, his expression softening. That sounds like you. I looked back out the window. Clouds were starting to break, light spilling onto the sidewalk in patches. I just need someone who knows how to make that happen, I said. I know someone, he said, reaching for his phone. Clarissa Kia. Smart, quiet, no nonsense. Helped me with mine. She'll keep it fair, but she doesn't miss a beat. I nodded. Good. Logan hesitated, then added, she'll also ask why you're so calm. Why now? Be ready for that. I've had enough chaos, I said. I want the rest of my life to feel like this coffee shop. Quiet, uncomplicated. He smiled. You might just get that. We sat there a while longer, talking about unimportant things. Baseball, traffic, an upcoming tech conference I didn't even care about. But I appreciated the normalcy. When we got up to leave, Logan patted my shoulder. Just remember, he said, you're not choosing failure, Jacob. You're choosing freedom. There's a difference. I watched him walk away, his stride easy, determined. And as I stepped out into the Denver sunlight, I realized something strange. I wasn't scared anymore. The hard part wasn't leaving Sarah. It was finally accepting she had already left me, long before last night. Her office smelled faintly of eucalyptus and coffee. Minimalist, like a hotel lobby, meant to calm nerves without asking too many questions. Clarissa Kia sat across from me, legs crossed, impeccably dressed, notepad open. She didn't smile much, but there was something steady in her presence, a stillness that made it easier to breathe. Never sat across from a divorce lawyer before, I admitted. She looked at the form I had filled out. 7 years of marriage. No kids. 1 property in both names. No prenup. I nodded. Bought the house at 2 years. Everything shared. She wanted it that way. Clarissa tapped the end of her pen against her chin. And you want a clean break? You said 50-50. No games, no revenge. That surprised her. Just a flicker, but I caught it. Nobody comes in here wanting just that, she said softly. Usually they want blood or absolution. Sure, you're not hiding a hammer behind your back. I'm not, I said. Simply want to move on, not bang the house down. Clarissa leaned back slightly, considering me. Let me guess. Spent the last few months trying to fix something you didn't break, until one day you realized your silence wasn't saving it. It was enabling it. I blinked. She wasn't wrong. She checked out, I admitted. I just stopped holding the door open. Clarissa started taking notes. All right, here's how this works. We start by filing the petition. Keep the language neutral. Colorado is a no-fault state. Irreconcilable differences will suffice. We divide assets by agreement. Or, if necessary, mediation. No trial. If she cooperates, no trial. If she's bitter, maybe a hearing. But from what I'm hearing, she's not heartbroken, just inconvenienced. That stung more than expected. I clasped my hands on the table. Haven't told anyone yet. Clarissa looked up. Do you want to? Eventually, but not now. Want papers ready first. Quiet. Controlled. She nodded. I'll get the ball rolling today. We'll notify her within the week. There was the beginning of an end. Strangely, it didn't feel like failure. It felt like opening a window after sitting too long in a sealed room. Before leaving, she handed me a thin folder. Here's what to expect. Finances, communication, boundaries, transition tips. Call me if anything escalates. But Jacob, I looked up. Be prepared for her to switch gears once she knows you're serious. Some people fight harder when they realize the war is already over. I thanked her and left. The sun was intense, bouncing off the office windows as if trying to startle me awake. For long moments, I stood there with the folder in hand, watching cars pass, as if trying to remember how to participate in the world again. It was strange how something so small as a signature could signal the collapse of years. But maybe that was all marriage was, a series of choices on paper, dressed in emotion. While walking back to the car, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel broken. I felt still, as if something finally stopped spinning. The TV was on, a low-volume hum coming from the living room, but I wasn't watching it. I had come home earlier than usual, and for once, didn't announce my entry. That was when I heard her voice, muffled but close. Sarah was in the bedroom. The door was almost closed. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but when someone uses your name like a piece on a chessboard, instinct takes over. Telling him he's completely checked out, come home late, leave stuff everywhere, and he just says nothing. A pause. Then, sharper. No, Gina, don't feel bad. You don't know what it's like living with someone who thinks being quiet is the same as being strong. Gina, her sister, I realized, must be on speaker, staying out of the hallway line of sight. He's not going to file, said Sarah, laughing lightly. Jacob's too proud, or maybe too passive. Either way, it's fine. Give him a few more weeks. Maybe another push. He'll do it eventually. Another pause. Just needs to look mutual. That's the trick. If he files first, I don't look like the one who gave up. I froze. The door wasn't even fully closed. She hadn't bothered hiding the conversation. That just told me everything about how little she feared being caught, or how sure she was I wouldn't do anything about it. Anyway, she added, he still thinks this is just a rough patch. Poor guy. The phone call ended shortly after. She came out a few minutes later, her eyes flickering to the sofa, surprised to see me sitting there. I didn't move. Neither did she. Home early, she said in a neutral tone. I nodded, without offering more. She didn't ask anything else. Just walked to the kitchen, opened the fridge, and pretended nothing happened. Later that night, my phone vibrated with a call from an unknown number. I let it ring, staring at it like a challenge. Then I answered. Jacob, it's Gina, Sarah's sister. I hadn't spoken to Gina in months. Her voice sounded tense. Look, this is weird, she continued. But can we talk? Just the two of us. A pause. I think you deserve to hear something in person. I swallowed. Okay, when? Tomorrow, she said. Somewhere quiet. Gilmore's coffee shop was on a quiet corner, the type of place where time seemed to slow down. I'd passed it 100 times without thinking twice. Now it felt like neutral ground, a place far enough from the life I'd built so the truth could breathe. Gina was already there. She looked different than I remembered. No makeup, hoodie sleeves pulled over her hands. Her eyes hadn't slept much. She offered a slight smile when I entered, but there was no warmth behind it. Just gravity. Thanks for coming, she said as I slid into the booth. I nodded. You said something bad. Tell me. She looked around almost nervously, then leaned in. I wouldn't be doing this if I hadn't heard what I heard the other day. I mean, Sarah's phone call. She blinked, watching my reaction. So you did catch part of it. I figured there was more. Gina nodded slowly, almost relieved. Then her voice dropped. Jacob, Sarah isn't confused. She's not lost. She's planning this. She wants to leave, but she doesn't want to look like the villain. I said something like, she needed me to file first. Gina grimaced. Worse than that. She's been telling people you've emotionally abandoned her. That you're cold, distant, neglectful. It's her way of setting the stage. I clenched my jaw, and yet she's staying out till midnight, trying to provoke me. Exactly, Gina said, her voice steady now. If you explode, she gets her narrative. If you leave, she gains sympathy. But if you stay quiet, she keeps control. I leaned back against the seat, her words hitting harder than expected. Why are you telling me this, Gina? She looked down, tracing the rim of her coffee cup with a finger. Why? I've seen her do this before. Not exactly like this, but close enough. She likes to be admired, needs it, and when things get too ordinary, she rewrites the script to make herself the protagonist. She paused. She told me about a guy, Gina added, hesitating. Some investor she met at an event. I don't know if it's serious, but she talks like his next move is lined up. A bitter laugh escaped me. Of course, she does. I'm not saying this to hurt you, continued Gina. I just couldn't stand by and watch her play the victim while you get stabbed in the back. You're a good man, Jacob. Too good to be used like this. I looked out the window. Rain started tapping against the glass. Soft, steady, like a clock counting down. Did she ever mention what she wanted from all this? I asked quietly. Gina hesitated. She wants the house. Half your retirement savings. Maybe more, if she can paint you as the one who gave up. And if you don't give her that narrative, we'll improvise, said Gina. But she won't expect you to fight back. She's counting on you being the calm, quiet one. I nodded, absorbing the full weight of what I'd heard. For months, I'd been playing defense, waiting, hoping Sarah would wake up and remember the life we built. But it had never been about reconciliation. It had been about strategy. I told Gina, thanks. She nodded slightly, then pushed a napkin toward me. On it, she'd scrolled a name. A friend of mine works private investigation if you ever need proof. I stayed at the napkin, then folded it and put it in my jacket pocket. As I rose to leave, Gina reached out, touching my arm gently. Whatever you do next, Jacob, make sure it's on your terms. Outside, the rain picked up. I walked to my car slowly, city sounds muffled under the drizzle. In that stillness, something inside settled. Not peace, not yet, but certainty. She wanted a performance. Instead, she was going to get the truth. And this time, I would be the one writing the script. Clarissa barely looked up when I entered, reading glasses low on her nose, a half sandwich pushed aside on a napkin. I stood at the front desk a moment longer than necessary until she noticed, and then the shift in energy. She leaned back slowly, gave me a long, appraising look. Something changed, she stated. I nodded. Everything. She didn't blink, didn't ask why, just clasped her hands and waited for me to explain. She's trying to provoke a divorce so she can claim assets, I said, my voice low but steady. How to build a sympathy-seeking narrative where I look like the one who quit. Clarissa tilted her head, then reached for a legal pad. Tell me everything. So I laid out, step by step, what I'd heard in Gina's confession. The calculated late nights, the silence, the manipulation disguised as detachment. She's once I land on my feet, I said, but I'm not going to let her bane the house down and call it a rescue. Clarissa was already scribbling notes. Good, then we adjust. Mutual dissolution is off the table. From now on, prepare for resistance. You don't want a circus. I don't, I said, but I'm done with silence. Clarissa nodded. Then we go tactical. Start documenting everything. When she leaves, what time she comes home. Anything she says that contradicts her claims. If you have access to shared bank accounts, screenshot unusual expenses. Don't confront. Don't alert. Just gather. She slid a thin folder across her desk. Here's what qualifies as admissible evidence. Start tonight. I took the folder. Its weight felt heavier than the pages inside. Something else, I added, pulling the napkin from my jacket pocket. I put it on her desk. Gina's recommendation. Clarissa scanned it, then nodded, satisfied. Private investigator. We'll need proof. And not just for court. Jacob. For clarity. Sometimes seeing the whole truth is the only way to stop wondering if you're imagining things. I leaned back. My chair exhaled. For so long, I'd been trying to keep things civilized. Neat. As if a quiet ending hurt less. But Sarah hadn't wanted quiet. She wanted cover. I wouldn't give her that anymore. Clarissa's voice softened. I understand this could get ugly. I nodded. So be it. I won't raise my voice. I won't humiliate. But I won't let her rewrite the story while I'm still in it. She smiled slightly. That's the right kind of ruthless. I left her office with more than a plan. I left with direction. At home, I started small. Notes on my phone with timestamps. Photos of the mess she left behind. Wine glasses. Receipts. The same pattern repeated. Each piece wasn't much alone. But together, they told a story she hoped I'd be too tired to document. That night, Sarah came home at 12:13 a.m. Her heels echoed louder than usual. She smelled of mint and a perfume that wasn't hers. She stopped when she saw me at the dining table, my laptop open, the folder beside me. Up late, she said cautiously. I didn't look up. Yeah. She stood there a second longer, waiting for a reaction that never came. Then she turned and walked down the hall. As her door closed behind her, I typed the entry. 12:13 a.m. returned home. No explanation. Minimal interaction. Noticeable discomfort seeing files. I didn't feel angry. I felt ready. Because she wanted me passive, predictable, silent. But I wasn't silent anymore. And I had no intention of letting her win by default. It happened on a Friday, the kind of night the city buzzes with people looking to escape. Sarah left at 7 p.m., dressed fancier than usual. Not a word about where. Just a casual, don't wait up. I didn't. Instead, I waited until 11:52 p.m. Then I picked up my phone and called her. She answered on the third ring, the bass of a distant club thumping in the background. Hey, she shouted over the noise, laughter rippling at the edge of her voice. It's me, I said calmly. A pause. Then, slowed amusement. Wow, didn't expect a call before bed. What's up, Daddy? Are you with Amanda again? She laughed. Sure, let's call that. Don't like it, Jacob. I could practically see her smug smile. Simple solution, divorce yourself. I smiled, a first real smile in weeks, though she couldn't see it. Already did, I said. Silence. I could still hear the music behind her, but she said nothing. Papers filed yesterday. We'll notify you Monday. I added, my voice level. Oh, and just to be clear, no, you won't keep the house. The music didn't stop, but everything else did. You're joking, she said finally. I'm not. A second passed, then I hung up. I didn't move, didn't flinch. 12:16 a.m. The front door burst open. Her heels hit the floor in a sharp staccato. Her purse crashed onto the counter. I didn't look up from the couch. You filed for divorce, she spat, looking at me. Why? Because I went out with friends. Because I gave you chances. No, I said, standing slowly. Because you used all of that to prove you were already gone. To try and get attention. To try and get leverage. I laughed. Once. Dry. You think I don't know about your calls? Your setups. Gina came to see me. Now she really froze. Gina told me your plan. To push. To provoke. To let me quit so you could leave clean. Sarah stepped back as the words hit her chest. It wasn't like that, she whispered. Don't lie. Not now. I walked to the dining table, pulled the folder from under a stack of receipts, slammed it. Evidence, I said. Every night you came late. Every contradiction. You were preparing your exit. I just decided to stop holding the door. Tears welled in her eyes, but I'd seen this performance too many times. I wasn't cold. I just wasn't fooled. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said, now softer. I was just lost. I didn't answer. She was recalibrating. Now, she was cornered. She took a shaky step forward. We can talk, Jacob. I mean, real talk. I tilted my head. I tried to talk. You laughed. You mocked me in front of our friends. You disappeared for nights. You gave up before I did. My voice cracked, but not from sadness. From certainty. You didn't think I'd really leave. You didn't think I'd finally see you. And I had seen her. Not the version of Sarah I married, but the one standing there now, unsure how her plans had slipped through her hands. I walked past her calmly. No yelling. No final blow. Just the sentence she never expected to hear. I'm staying at Logan's till this is finalized. Jacob, wait. The open door. Don't worry, I said. You'll have plenty of time to explain your version of the story to whoever's left to believe it. Then I left. And for the first time in months, the night didn't feel heavy. It felt honest. 3 months later, the ocean wakes me before the sun. I now live in a small beach house, hidden just outside Lincoln City, Oregon. It's not grand. Just white siding, wind-whipped grass, and windows opening to the sound of waves instead of traffic. Most mornings, I make coffee barefoot, the floor cold on my feet, letting the breeze in while I work remotely. I kept my job, the one Sarah mocked. Turns out, that little safe cubicle job came with flexible hours and a boss who really cared about well-being. Funny how much brighter life feels when nobody's draining your lungs. I've made new friends here. Neighbors wave without pretending. I host dinners every few weeks. Grilled salmon, mismatched plates, laughter reaching outside. And I've rediscovered something I thought lost forever. Not solitude, but stillness. There's a difference. One night, returning from the farmer's market, my phone vibrated. Logan had sent a screenshot of a social media post. Sarah, tagged at some party, looking tired. Someone in the comments mentioned, sleeping on couches after the situation with her boyfriend went wrong. No house, no porch, no second chapter. Just scattered pieces of the story she tried to rewrite. I stayed at the screen for a moment. Not angry, not smug, just calm. Poetic justice doesn't always arrive making noise. Sometimes it appears in the life you build when nobody's looking. Sometimes it looks like peace. And as the tide rolled in behind me, I realized it never broke me. It freed me. That was my story. I still think about Gina, and how she could have stayed quiet, let her sister's plan unfold. But instead, she chose to warn me, risking her family to tell me the truth. What about you? Have you ever had someone you trusted reveal a completely different side of themselves? How did you handle it? Tell me what you think in the comments. I really want to know.